Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to Please Remain Calm. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I am Daniel Gonzalez. As always, folks, the opinions expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services. Hi.
Yeah, dude. Here we are, another show, and I'm already running into the dilemma of us being back on shows and running out of shirts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's what happens, man. You got to look good on this thing. You also
Yeah.
got to look out for that under titty crease.
Exactly. Like
this,
where we're at, like if you're watching on, YouTube or when you watch our clips now, everything's got to be vertical format. So we're like closer in. So there's like a bus line.
Yeah.
Like we're like the Hall of Famers talking to you.
You got to be careful with that. I want to, normally you guys know we, we'll BS and talk about current events a little bit at the beginning of the episode here, but we have a actually very important episode, I think. And our guest is a very important guest, and the incident that happened to him is something that I think is important to all of our listeners. Most of our listeners are firefighters, paramedics, up and coming guys and gals all over the country. Mm-hmm. And so the situation that we're going to talk about today, I think, is something that everybody should pay close attention to and take whatever lessons you can from the story you're about to hear today. You guys all know that Ben and I were raised by a firefighter. Our dad did 32 years on the LAFD. And I really connected with today's guest and his story in the fact that he was also the son of a firefighter. And, for me, speaking from my point of view, firefighting was something that I always just knew I was going to do. You know what I mean? Never thought I was going to do anything else. It was like, oh, of course, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be just like my dad and be a firefighter. And you don't really, like our dad, when I first started like paying attention to him being a firefighter, it was probably 84, 85 when I was 4 or 5 years old, something like that. And he had already been on the job for 7, 8 years at that point. Right. And so visiting him at the station, I have vague memories of him being a firefighter, but really my memories are of him being an engineer. And the risk factor when you're an engineer is way lower than when you're a firefighter.
Right.
So hearing him come home or seeing him come home or going to the station and seeing him, with the guys at the station or even running calls, you go there for Thanksgiving or something like that and they get a medical run, you go or they get a little grass fire at 47s, and you go. Seeing dad operate there didn't seem like there was a whole lot of risk there. Obviously, firefighting is a dangerous career, and it has potential of being deadly, of course. But as far as like a kid coming up, knowing my whole life I was going to be a firefighter, I never really like took to heart the potential that I could actually die doing this job. Then you get hired, and you go through the drill tower. And when I went through the drill tower, Rio Beck Hernandez, close call had just happened weeks before we went through the drill tower. And so they had his SCBA hanging up, at 40s in the classroom, and it's, charred to bits, and you're like, holy shit, and that was, I can remember the first time walking in and seeing that. And then you're like, what the fuck is up with this? And you hear the story about what happened to Rio Beck and then, they had they weren't, I don't think they were called green sheets at the time, but they had like a breakdown of what had happened to him.
Right.
And you hear the story and it was like the first time I can remember going like, holy shit, this dude was like months ahead of me, like from where I am right now.
Yeah.
And really went through this crazy ordeal, these crazy physical injuries and stuff like that. And it's like, damn, I'm going to be doing this in a little bit. Really kind of geared up my, oh shit, this is real pucker factor,
Yeah.
Then I can remember as my career went on a little bit, I had spent some time at Nines downtown, and I got a spot the first time I was at 63s on Rescue 63. And I just gone there, probably had 4 years on the job. And I've told this story before, but Brent Lovren dying in Fives First In. Just blocks from Fives, an explosion that happened in a small little nothing, what seemed like a nothing fire in electrical vault. And the sparks from his from his rotary saw ignited that smoke in there and basically exploded this small room, blew the door off its hinges. It hit him head to toe and killed him. That was my battalion, you know?
Yeah.
And I've told this story before. Our dog was at the groomers right there, catty corner to where this happened. And so like that experience of like I didn't even know what had happened, showed up to get the dog. And then you hear these rumors that a firefighter had died. And then I see the guys from my battalion, hey, what happened? Fucking Levy died. You know, it's like, holy shit. That's another one where it's like somebody close, somebody that I knew that I'd worked with multiple times and been around and been in the kitchen shooting the shit with, that went to work that morning and fucking died. And so those two experiences in my career are really what like triggered me to like really understand like that this job could change your life in the stop of a dime. You know what I mean? Like, and so when I heard the story that we're going to hear today, it really hit home, and I'm really excited to have our guest on. I just want to play a quick clip to start this episode off, and then we'll introduce our guest and get into his story.
Yeah, I see from roof. At this time, it looks like the fire is only confined to the one building. The exposure, the Bravo side, that arch truss that we're on, is not involved right now. Heavy fire blowing out Delta side. Through the roof, heavy fire. Man, from the roof. Truck 2, top man, through the roof, heavy fire. 50 feet in off the Alpha side. All companies, we have a reported mayday. Stand by. I see from truck 2 on the roof. We have the down firemen. We need hands to help us get them off of the roof.
You could see the building was totally engulfed, and fire.
So our guest today is firefighter Nathan Espinosa. Nate, welcome, man.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for coming and telling this story, man. I think a lot of people are going to benefit a lot from hearing this story. I want to, we'll get to September 19, 2018, which is the date that this incident occurred and changed your life. Mm-hmm. I always kind of start when we have firefighters on, just kind of getting an idea of how you thought you were going to become a firefighter and what route you took to get to the position you were at this point.
Well, it sounds like our stories are not too different. Growing up, Dad was a firefighter. I don't have too many memories of that either. I remember him being an engineer and then captain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, when I was really serious about joining, it was what I always wanted. But when I was really serious, I started visiting the station more, going on calls with him. And I was addicted.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. There's no other career I want. This is fun. This is exciting. And I was hearing all the good things, you know, and it wasn't until after my incident that me and my dad would sit down. He was like, yeah, I had some close calls too. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's not all this glory and every call's perfect. Like, he had some pretty sketchy close calls too. And I was like, I was in love with that career of being a firefighter. And so when I went through the drill tower and you start hearing all these stories, the Salvation Army fire, you start hearing all the Brett Lovren, and you have guest speakers come in. It was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
And then you go to your first house and you're like, oh, this is even more real. And it's just completely different from the safe environment of the drill tower to when you're right in the field. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is it. This is like go time.
How long did it take you to get hired? How long were you trying or testing?
I mean, I was trying right out of high school. You know, I always wanted it. You know, taking fire science classes, playing college soccer, you know, like doing that. But it wasn't until I had my daughter at 20, I was like, oh, I really got to step my game up. Like, I really got to be a provider. And so at 20, I got my AMT and I just applied. I, started going really hard in school and things like that. Yeah. And I got picked right there and then didn't look back.
Yeah. What drill tower did you go through?
40.
40.
Yeah. 40.
I love
so
40s.
Your dad never had that talk with you until you had your incident? Like when you're going to tower and you got hired, he was like, hey.
He told me, he said there is nothing more. This will be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
And it'll also be the most rewarding.
Yeah.
We were talking about the drill tower. He's like, you got to work hard and, don't be the top of the class. Don't be the back of the class. Be in the middle. Just do your job and know it. And then he was like, dude, you always got to have your head on a swivel, all this stuff. But he never told me about his near misses, his close calls.
Do you remember Dad telling you close call stories when we were kids?
Not really when we were kids. It was more like when I got into like explorers and I got a little bit older and it looked like I was actually trying to do that career. I remember him sharing some of them.
Yeah.
I remember
AC unit falling through
a
roof,
I remember that like being like maybe like teenagers, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I wasn't really thinking about or thinking like I'm going to be on the job for sure. Like that, But I do remember he never said anything, but Mom told us that he was hospitalized for smoke inhalation. Once, and that's when we were kids.
His ears getting burned and stuff like that.
The
other thing that trips me out about like my dad and your dad, their time on the job was, number one, when they were young firemen, I think the job was a lot harder.
Yes.
They're actually lugging around brass fittings and stuff like that, where we have Pyrolite. Not only that, but they had to deal with a lot of racism back in the day, being Hispanics on a job that was full of cowboys,
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't until, I kind of wish that he would have shared those experiences a little bit more, at least earlier in my career. It wasn't until I started dealing with like people that I know, getting hurt and stuff like that he would sit down and talk to me about that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So I was wondering that like when you were in the tower and like you're getting the stories and it's like hitting you, you're like thinking like, yeah, damn, Dad, you didn't tell me this. Like, were we gonna get to this? Right.
No, but I mean, yeah, he did, but it was, I would call him after a bad day at the drill tower. Like I remember one time, failing the, PPEs, like the first time we got tested, I failed it. And I called my dad. I was like, dude, these captains are too hard on me. Like and all this stuff. Fast forward, that captain that failed me for my PPEs because my helmet wasn't on too tight. Yeah. Fast forward to that incident, I made sure that my helmet was on tight. Yeah. And it's like, and so he'd always put it in perspective. They're doing it for a reason. Yeah. They're doing it for a reason. Just
going through being young and you're so tunnel vision on like what's the quiz going to be today? What's I got to do this for time. You know what I mean? What are the steps to do this? You don't really give a lot of thought to what the real purpose is behind the repetition and all this stuff that we do in the drill tower and why they're so hard on you in the drill tower.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
In all honesty, I think we've lost a lot of that kind of hardness on rookies we have now. You don't really realize how important that stuff is until you get into a situation like yours.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, you talk about calling your dad after a bad day at the drill tower. He probably already heard. He already knew. He sees your number there and he's like, okay, he's going to tell me about how he fucked up today.
You would hear from the grapevine, like, hey, your son failed this.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, you were an engineer and your son failed hose lays. Like he got that phone call all the time.
Yeah. I remember my dad texted me. Or I came out of the drill tower and looked at my phone. I already had a text from him about something that I had fucking back talked or gotten in trouble for that day or whatever. Oh no, that's what it was. I left my locker unlocked.
Oh yeah.
They used to say you had to lock it, right? If you left it unlocked. So we're out there standing at attention, in the beginning of the day lineup, and here goes Captain Willihan with all my stuff. Walked right by. I'm like, oh my God, Yep. And then when I left, before I got in the car, and there's already a text from you left your damn locker unlocked. I'm like, shit, man, he knows everything. So you went through 40s, went through the drill tower. Aside from a couple little, missteps that everybody goes through. Yeah. You graduated fine. And then, obviously a couple days before you graduate, you kind of get like through the grapevine or the guys will tell you the transfer list where everybody's going. Yeah. So your first house was where?
My first house was Twos.
Where's Twos located?
Boyle Heights.
Boyle Heights.
And funny story about that is as soon as the transfer list was out, my dad called the drill master, Captain Ruiz, and was like, hey, why is my son so close to me? I want him away. I want him to do his own thing.
Sure, yeah. Where was your dad at the time?
16s.
Oh, okay.
So And of course, a couple incidents we would run into each other, you know, but the drill master, Captain Reese, was like, hey, just, you're in the drop. He'll be fine. He'll choose a good house, blah, blah, blah. And how cool would it be if you ran in a couple calls with him? And my dad was like, all right, that's actually kind of cool. So I was going to change houses, but I stuck with, you know, allowed me to stay with twos, and that was it. And twos
is a good spot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of variety in the calls that you run in that district.
Yeah.
And you're surrounded by districts that have the potential to have big fires.
Oh yeah.
You know, and this particular incident, this particular building that you guys ran on, it's one of those buildings that is like kind of like your bread and butter downtown fire. You know, those I think I've talked about this in the past. My time at Nines, I was pretty much permanent truck when I was on the fire side, and so my fires that I had at Nines were all I was on the roof on all of them.
Yeah,
and typically those buildings, they're older, big buildings with very, very strong conventional roofs. A lot of arch trusses that have heavy timber and take a long time to burn through and fail. So you have this sense of safety when you get on a roof like that, as opposed to a lightweight roof like on a strip mall or on like a new Costco or something, like a newer big building like that. And so let's kind of go through that day. You're a first house rookie. So you're kind of like, how far into your first house were you when this happened?
3 months in.
Oh, you were 3 months in.
3 months in.
So you typically stay there for about 4 months. You were a good 3/4 of the way through your stint at twos.
We were all getting ready for, you know, the going back to the drill tower and doing the phase 1, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
So that was coming up.
Had you had any fires at that point yet?
Yes. All single family, you know, I was been on the roof a couple times, but nothing, you know, set up ladder pipe, all that stuff, but nothing on a commercial like this.
Nothing commercial.
Yeah.
Okay. What time of day was it?
It was right after lunch.
Okay.
Right after lunch.
You guys were out on the radio when this call came out?
Yeah, we had just finished up lunched and right down the street from the station, and we were on our way back from another call. I do not remember what type of call it was, but I remember getting off the 5 and we were about to go back in the station, and sure enough the pulse point went off.
Yeah.
And again, first house rookie, I have no idea where this is at.
Sure.
And AO looks back and he's like, ASB, suit up. This is us.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thank God I have all my stuff. And we're going. Yeah. And so the whole time we're pulling up, I'm so busy suiting up and getting everything ready, making sure everything's dialed in, that it wasn't until we arrived, like right when we're pulling up, that I saw the loom up.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh shit, this is
it's that tunnel vision. Like,
yes.
Making sure you're getting all your stuff on.
I'm making sure I have my radio, making sure I have my, you know, I got my, everything's on. Because I don't want to be that rookie that has like forget something or you know stuff like that. So, and then we pulled up and you look up, you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, especially that loom up when you see the video of it, it's like it's fucking impressive, man. Yeah. So you pull up to this building. Were you guys the first truck on scene?
We were the first truck. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, when you're a first house rookie, you ride in what's called a top position typically. Can you just kind of describe what your job would be at a structure fire like this as a top member?
Yeah. So as a top member, like for example, that fire, my responsibility was to throw the 35, find a spot with the tiller member, and then load the pedestal and then follow up the AO.
And by load the pedestal, we mean, for those of you that don't know, you know, the AO is spotting, kind of looking as he's pulling up, he's looking to see where he's going to throw his aerial ladder, right? Typically on a very large building like this, he'll go for the strong points of the roof, probably a corner, and he's looking, trying to figure out where he can spot so that he can hit that with a good angle for his ladder, so that everyone can get on and off the roof if they need to in a fast pace. The top member rides basically behind the AO in the driver's seat. The tiller member is the guy on the very back that steers the back wheels, right? Typically, the tiller member is one of the most experienced firefighter on that crew, aside from the AO. He's kind of like the AO's right-hand man and will help cut and stuff like that up there. The top member, when you get off, just like Nate said, you know, throwing the 35 is officially a 3-man operation, but at a fire like this, it's a 2-man operation. And your job as a top member, obviously just learning, is And it's one of the things you drill on when you're a first house rookie is, where am I going to spot this ladder at? Where am I going to foot this ladder? Right.
Yeah. And that was, you know, I was always top throwing the ladders, and I was just transitioning to like, now they're trusting me. Like, now you're spotting, now your base, you're going to find it. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking, I'm like, all right, here's a good spot. Here's a good spot. And so I look back at Tiller member. I said, hey, let's go throw it down here.
Yeah.
And he stops and says, wait, just wait. And so we're waiting. And he's like, let's just wait to see where the AO throws it.
Yeah.
So the AO throws it, and then next, you know, AO looks down. He's like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, we're going.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like,
and you hadn't thrown the ladder
We
yet.
didn't throw a ladder. We didn't throw it. And so like, oh shit, we got it. Like, I felt behind.
Yeah.
I felt behind the game. And so, you know, we grabbed the chainsaw, rubber hook, and when we just start going. And then the inside member, he had kind of done like a little check of the front, and he saw no forcible entry issues, things like that. So he tagged along up with us.
Oh, okay.
So we had 4 people going up on the roof.
You guys did wind up throwing the 35 though, right?
Not us. No.
Oh, you didn't.
Oh.
You just put it down, and he said, let's go. Let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important that where that ladder is it's important to know where that AO is going to throw his aerial, so that you can figure out where you're going to throw 35. Because a lot of times, you know, the fire might be in the back of a you know, 150 foot long, a deep building.
Yeah.
And if he throws that thing in the front corner, you got to hustle down about halfway down that side, that 150, about 75 feet down, and throw it so that you have 2 ways of egress in case something goes squirrely up on the roof. You know that not only do you have this ladder that, you know, you've sent it out to, and it's all the way safe in the front, but if shit hits the fan, you also have this other ladder that's halfway there, you know, on the parapet wall that you can get down.
Yeah. Didn't you have that once where like you threw your ladder too soon?
Yes, but that was a different story. My first fire ever, we pull up to this building. We had just drilled on that building. Yeah. Like the day before. I was like, oh fuck, I know exactly where I know. This is perfect, dude. I jumped out and it was a 24 straight. I chicken wing that fucker, and I threw it up, and as I'm pushing it up, it stops halfway, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I look, and the AO was throwing the aerial right where I was throwing the 24. I got caught up. And so thanks for bringing that up.
It happens.
But it's one of the things as a first house rookie that's super fucking stressful. Is where am I going to put this ladder? You know, because you put that thing in the wrong thing, the tillerman's gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, let's go. No, you got to put that thing over here. You didn't see these wires over here? You know, so as you're running up with this ladder, this heavy ass ladder, and you've got your breather on, you got your turnouts on, it's your first commercial, this massive loom up, companies coming from everywhere. And you don't realize how fast shit happens at a fire like that, you know, especially when you're a first house rookie and you got all these 100 things, but the guys you're working with have done this before, and they're on kind of like autopilot doing their thing in their own job. You know, it's like running a play in football. You know, you're over here trying to block, and these guys are over here running routes and shit like that. And you're just locked in here. I can't let this guy get around. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's one of the stressful things. You jump out, you get that 35 and you're running, you're looking at the building. Where am I going to put this thing? Where am I going to put this thing? Okay, how far away from the building am I? What's my angle going to be so that we can get up there with a chainsaw if we need to safely, you know?
Yeah. And he's doing it all, and he's like, shit, I'm already behind.
And it's all happening fast. So you guys throw that ladder down and you load the pedestal. Loading the pedestal, basically the AO is up on the top there where the aerial ladder is, and he's controlling the aerial ladder and throwing that ladder. What you have to do as a top member is a lot of times his breather will be up there, but you might get his breather, throw it up there, get both chainsaws, throw it up there. Typically the roof kit, which is 2 rubbish hooks that are kind of ladder strapped together, is already up there.
The pedestal is literally the turntable.
Yeah, it's literally the turntable that the ladder is connected to, right? And he's up there, he has the controls, it turns with it and everything. So when Nate says load the pedestal, that's what he's talking about. Get the chainsaws up there, get the roof kit up there if it's not already up there, and the AO's breather if he doesn't already have it on. And then climb up there, and you're either following the AO up, or usually a company will have their own operation of who's going up first. And a lot of times it might be the first house rookie that's up there that sounds out, because your job.
I was the first one off. I was first one off, and I was like, shit. Yeah. But we threw to the exposure. So, and there was no fire in that building. So I knew we were good, but still it was nerve wracking being the first one off. You're like, oh, like they're trusting me with this. So when I got off, right when I got to get off the aerial, I hit that thing hard. Like I knew there was no fire, but just to make sure.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, we all got off. We all kind of like huddled up and then carried on.
Yeah. As soon as you get off that roof, they call it sounding, right?
Right.
Take that rubbish hook and you're basically trying to punch through the roof. You want to see if this is strong enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You do it all around where everybody's going to get off so that it's clear that, hey, this whole area is strong. And we can all stand here. And if shit hits a fan, we know this is a safe area that we can come back to. Not only that, it'll give you an idea where the structural members are on the roof.
Yeah.
Right. You hit a part that's, that doesn't have like a truss or a big piece of wood there. And you can feel the difference between that and hitting. It feels like you're hitting solid rock, on a big piece of timber. So it'll give you an idea of what type of roof you're on and where it's safe to walk and stuff. So, in watching these videos and stuff, it looks like you guys, just like you said, started off in a part of the building that wasn't involved in fire.
Yes. Yeah.
You made your way sounding toward where the smoke was, obviously. And obviously on a big building like this, with this heavy conventional construction, big arch truss like that, you feel like you have a little bit more time with these roofs because it is big timber, and it gives you the opportunity to cut. You always want to cut a hole above the fire, right above the fire if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a building like this that's got a really strong roof on it, it gives you a little bit more sense of security that you can get a little bit further over the fire to get a quality hole cut to get all those gases and smoke out for the engine company that's in there actually putting wet stuff on the red stuff.
This being your first time, though, are you feeling any of that? Like,
I knew that was kind of the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Go over it, cut it. Everything you learn in the drill tower, that's a good solid roof. And but again, as we're walking up and approaching it, I had a sinking feeling that something's off. But I labeled it as, this is my first commercial fire.
Sure.
This is I'm going on top of a roof. You're just nervous. You're just a rookie.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
You also
remember having that feeling?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You give a lot of credit. You give a lot of credit to the guys that you're working with too, and like looking around and seeing how confident they are. A guy that's been on a roof like that or a fire like that a handful of times, in their career, or an older guy that's been at twos for a while. And
yeah,
I'm sure they've had plenty.
I remember
of
my
fires.
AO, like it just was like another fire for him.
Yeah,
and he was like very calm, walking, and I'm like, my heart's pounding out of my chest. Like I remember him especially being very like, all right, we got this. Type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is impressive to me when you get a guy that's been around the block a few times, how calm they are in situations like that, and how much they just know, from one cut and looking exactly what type of roof they are and exactly how they want to cut, where they want to start their cut. All that shit is super impressive. I mean, being an AO is like being, it's like being a super firefighter. You know what I mean? Like he's just like a really fucking good firefighter.
It's just an art.
Yeah,
it's just an art.
It really is.
Yeah.
And he's actually a really great AO. I wanted to talk a little bit about, as you were going up, what was your guys' SOG as far as like masking up, as far as making sure your bottle was on, just safety shit on top of the roof as you were making your way across?
I mean, our the ones we talked about at twos and chalked up was always like, hey, if you feel like you need to suit up, like, and it was always like, dude, if you need to, like, there's not going to be any backlash. Like, you do what you got to do. It was I always felt comfortable. Like, if I wanted to suit up, even if I was premature or too early, we'll talk about it afterwards. Right. So we're going there, and I'm like walking. I'm like, okay, we're going to go cut on this thing. And I want to make sure that I'm ready for when they tell me to.
Sure.
So the AO is walking up, and the AO and the inside member, they're not suited up. They're walking closer. And as we're between that division wall, about maybe 8 feet away from that division wall.
Yeah.
The tiller member stops, and I stop, and we start suiting up.
Okay.
That was what I was comfortable with. I wanted to suit up. And as soon as the AO kind of gestures, like, we're going to go on top of this thing, clicked in, good seal, helmet on tight, everything was perfect. All right, let's go. Yeah.
For younger guys too, it's even if you're not suiting up, it's a good idea to sometimes crank that bottle on just so your pass device is activated in case something happens and you fall through. you're incapacitated or knocked out or something like that, your pass will actually go off because it's actuated and turned on by the air pressure in your bottle. And there's, you know, risks involved with that too. You know, if you happen to hit your bypass, you know, on your regulator and it's not on, you're leaking or whatever, man. You could have a leak in there. You could run out of air, and then when you need it, it's, you know, not there because your bottle's open. But it's, you know, kind of a give and take with that sort of thing. So you guys make your way. There's a division wall. The fire is obviously on the other side of this division wall. Just kind of walk us through what happened at that point.
So the AO, I didn't hear anything. I just saw his hand like, let's go, like kind of gestured out. So inside member went first. He's out there sounding, and he has one of the rubbish hooks. I'm right behind him.
Yeah.
And I saw him go out maybe 10 feet, and I'm right behind him. I had just hopped over, and I took 2-3 steps toward his direction, and I saw him turn and not like run, but just walk back. I don't remember his face. He just kind of walked, and as he's about to touch me, as we're about to like make contact, it just darkness. That's all I remember everything, but when I tell the story, it was complete darkness.
I want to play just a quick clip. It's just a little bit closer up.
Bravo side, that arch truss that we're on is not involved right now. Heavy fire blowing out, Delta side. Through the roof, heavy fire. Man, from the roof. Truck 2, top man, through the roof, heavy fire. 50 feet in off the Alpha side.
So you can see through that clip just how quickly total collapse of that area of the roof can happen. So you're there, you see him walking toward you. Next thing you know, blackness.
There's blackness.
Now, if you're, you know, if you ever been inside a fire, it's there. You can't. We operate in the darkness.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on an engine company, you're trying to find the seat of the fire. Things will illuminate when you get to where the seat of the fire is, and the room is, you know, on fire, and the fire itself will illuminate, you know, where you're at, and you kind of can get your bearings. We obviously have flashlights, you know, on, so that when we are in the darkness, but even then, in thick smoke, that light is only getting right here in front of your face. You can't really see when you're in thick smoke like that. And when you're on a roof, you don't have your light on. You know, when you're going inside on a nozzle or something like that, you flick on all your lights. You know, so people can see you, and you can kind of see if you hit a spot that is a little bit more open. But on a roof, midday, you don't have your lights on. You don't have nothing. So that part of the roof collapses, and you basically rode the roof down.
I rode rode the roof 24 feet afterwards. They measured it 24 feet. I rode that from being on top of it, and then 24 feet down. I couldn't not tell you which way was up, could not tell you what direction I was in. Had no idea the layout of inside the building, obviously. But I didn't get entangled in anything. I just rode that roof all the way down.
And you were, when you finally stopped and settled and had a second to, what the fuck just happened? Were you in hot black smoke? Was there flames around you in the room?
It was just hot black. It was just hot and black.
People don't realize how hot smoke is, right? You do, you know, like live fire training, stuff like that. That's one of the things that they do, is they'll light a fire in this container, and you can actually see the layering of the smoke come down. At some point, they'll say, hey, take your glove off and just stick your hand in that smoke. And it's like, you can't leave your hand in there, man. You're talking about unburnt, you know, combustible particles in there that are hot as shit. So you don't necessarily have to have fire to be burned, you know, or feel like you're burning up. That smoke is hot as shit, especially if you're in a part of the building that hasn't had a drop of water placed in it, that those layers are just been settling down. And you probably had firemen. You can see through that clip when the roof came in, all that fire that blew out of there. Yeah,
that's why I was wondering like how it was when you land, because you say you ride the roof down and then you just like, oh shit, I'm alive.
When I fell down with the roof, when I wrote it down, I remember standing and then falling, and then once it rested, I was on my hands and knees because I kind of lost my balance, and then I'm on that the roof had kind of like had an arch to it, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember sliding in, like on my hands and knees, sliding in, and I'm pushing and I'm trying to grab onto something, trying to stop, because I felt that the direction I was going in was into that beast. Like I was going into that.
Like you were sliding into
I was sliding into that fire, like without a doubt. And I'm trying to like scoot back. I'm using everything I got to scoot back. And then I stopped sliding in. And that's when it was like, oh shit, like where am I?
And nothing. You at this point you can't see.
I can't see
through
anything.
the hole. You can't see nothing.
Can you hear the mayday?
No, I can't hear
nothing.
What the only thing, as soon as I fell in, this is one thing I want to hit on. One thing as soon as I fell in, you just kind of hear the roar of the fire, right? You just hear that beast kind of thing. But the only other sound I remember was me screaming Mayday. Not hitting my push to talk, but just screaming Mayday, Mayday, Mayday over and over and over again, because in the drill tower, we didn't have our radios, but you know, you're throwing ladders, you're running around the drill yard. They would grab you, throw you against the wall and say, give me your Mayday. So you recite it, right?
Yeah.
You recite it. So that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
I'm going through a situation and now I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the fire. I just started screaming it. Like I was in the drill tower.
muscle memory.
I was like, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And I kept saying that over and over and over again until it dawned on me that no one can hear me. Like and I felt like an idiot. Like I just felt completely lost. And so I, my right hand, the one that I got jacked up the most, it felt like it got crushed. Like I couldn't move it. It was just completely locked. And so my left hand, I was trying to find my EAB. I was trying to find it.
Yeah.
To the point where eventually the left glove, for some reason, it completely fell off.
Yeah.
And so then I was able to find it. I hit the EAB and then I shoved it into my face pouch.
Your hand.
To protect it, right? Because as soon as I did that, I felt it burning up.
Right.
So I shoved it into my face pouch, and then again, as I'm trying to find my way up, just kept screaming Mayday over and over and over again.
Were you able to key the mic and get a Mayday out?
I did not key the mic. I just hit hit the AB once, and that was it.
That was it.
That was it.
So you like a land, you stop, I'm not falling. You assess yourself, your hands crushed. Are you able to stand up?
I cannot stand up. I'm basically on my stomach because of the heat. I'm forced down. I can't stand. I would not want to stand.
Right. Yeah. But as far as like being able to move, like
I'm basically like army crawling.
Okay.
And the way I tell it is that I am at the direction, at the grace of the heat. Because the heat was so hot, my body naturally wanted to go that way.
Get away from it.
So I started going up that ramp, what I call it, the ramp. So I started going up that ramp, and I started to have a little bit of relief from that heat.
And that ramp was just basically the portion of the roof that had fallen was still kind of hanging on there.
Just was barely hanging on, and it had landed on a bunch of debris, cubicles, things like that underneath it to make that ramp.
What was in this building? It
was a clothing manufacturer.
Okay,
bunch of t-shirts,
textiles. Yeah.
But you don't know the building. You have no idea the layout inside. You have no line to follow out. Like you're just needle in a haystack, basically.
Yes.
That must have felt like an eternity being down there.
Yes.
Yeah. And at this point too, you're still not hearing any radio traffic and nobody talking to you. You can't hear the guys on the roof.
I after watching the video, I know that like the AO was giving out the Mayday. I know the command was trying to acknowledge it. Everyone's coming in. It's just chaos.
Yeah.
But I don't hear any of that.
Yeah.
I'm in my own little world. I'm in my own little fight, and I just hear, it's like a war movie. You just hear me breathing, Mayday, and you hear like that roaring effect.
Yeah. Scary, man.
So going through your head now, you climbed up, you have no idea where anyone is, where anything is. So what's your move after you're climbing up?
So as soon as I hit the AAB, I had one of the scary thoughts in my head that kind of still shakes me up to this day is I thought about giving up. Like there's no way I'm getting out of this. Like I just felt I didn't know if I was on the roof or I had fallen through a hole. Like I had no idea. And my goal was, is if I can go to the front of the building. I saw kind of that rolling steel where the engine company was kind of putting water in. I said, maybe I can find a way out there. If not, my only option, it was a thought, was just I would find a corner and just basically suffocate, and hopefully my family has, you know, a body to bury. And as soon as I thought that, I was pissed. Like, dude, a young father, like wife, like 2 kids. Like I was pissed. Like that I was in
this yourself for even thinking that
I was in this situation and then I'm gonna die, and like, who's gonna raise my kids? You know, like who's gonna, like, all that stuff. And as soon as I thought that, I had these mental pictures come in my head. You know, first my daughter, then my son, and then my wife. And it wasn't like a picture. It was just like a real, like a moment in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're just looking, not smiling, not sad, just like, kind of like, what are you doing?
Come on, fool. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, man, because we interviewed Graciano, who was trapped in the Vallarta Market fire. And he kind of had the same story. You know, he had the thought of giving up, curled up in a ball. He saw his life flash in pictures through his head. Yeah. It's interesting that you guys had that same experience.
It's such a trip. It's such a trip because you hear these other accounts from other people, like veterans, things like that. You hear these things, and then when it happens to you, it's like, it's just a complete, it just messes with your mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was like an acceptance of like, all right, I'm dead.
And it was
like
almost
waiting for it.
And it was almost like a little bit of peace. Like,
that's what other guys said too.
As soon as I accepted that there was, because the odds were against me. I didn't think that there was a way out. So as soon as I accepted it, I was like, again, another thought was, am I going to wait for my bottle to empty, or am I just going to remove my face piece, take a gulp, and then kill myself that way?
Yeah.
Because of the pain and that fire, like all on top of you, just every part of your body just felt like on fire.
Yeah. There's no pain like it, man.
Yeah.
There's no pain like it.
Yeah. And like, what were your like injuries like that you found out later?
Later afterwards, I found, I had, a little bit about only 10% of my body burned.
Oh, wow.
Most of it being my hand, 3rd degrees on the hand, and then end up being 4th degree on the pinky. I had a hairline fracture on my back, but was no issue. No internal damage, but, burns on the ears, calf, legs, things like that, but only 10%.
It's interesting you bring up the thought of giving up, and then that thought kind of changing. There's a story, you mentioned the Salvation Army fire. There was a few things that happened at that fire, and we have an episode, episode
second
2.
one.
Episode 2, where we talked to 2 of the guys that were there. But there's another story from that fire where there's a first house rookie, Sean Wonders, who was there with his captain. They got surrounded by fire as the roof collapsed, and the captain, the story goes that the captain looked at him and said, "Hey man, sit down, we're gonna die."
Yeah.
And Wonders was like, "Fuck that," and crawled around and actually found a way out, came back and grabbed his captain to come out. So that it's hard to say, hey, this is what you should do, especially when you're in a situation like that. And it's hard to describe what panic actually feels like and what it does to you. But that's a testament to making up your mind of what you want to do here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you're at where, like, the front of the building is there. I think you get to the front of the building. Yeah. And then the next thought is, I might take my mask off and, I
didn't want to die, like just suffer for because I had just clicked on, so I had a fresh bottle, so I didn't want to suffer for that long. It was like, this is unbearable.
20 minutes of this shit. Do you remember making the conscious decision, like, no, fuck that, I'm not gonna just curl up and die. I'm gonna find my way over there? Talk to me about that.
God, I mean, as soon as I saw my kid's face and my wife's face, it felt like I could just run through that wall. Yeah. And I pretty much did. So I started crawling pretty fast to the point where on the Alpha side, I just slammed my helmet because I was going so fast. And as soon as I slammed my helmet onto that wall, I looked up and I could see the power lines. I could see the blue sky finally.
Oh, wow.
And to myself, I was like, dude, that's actually really close. Why are those power lines so close to me?
Yeah.
They're like 10 feet. Like I just felt like I could reach them. I was like, shit, there's my ticket out. So again, the heat forced me right. I go to that wall, and again, I hit that wall, and it was from the roof where the roof was collapsed to the top of that division wall, 6 feet. I'm 5'11" on a good day. So it was like right there. So I just popped my little head over there. And what I came to realize is that when things like this happen, there's two things going to happen. It's fight or flight. You're either going to fight or you're going to flight, And when I talked to the guys afterwards, I found out that they, without a doubt in their head, thought I died on impact.
Sure, yeah.
Like I am 100% dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were in shock, complete shock.
Yeah.
And so I popped my head out and I see those firefighters down there, and I was like, wait, what about me? Where are you guys going?
Yeah, exactly.
And,
hey, assholes.
It fucked with my head.
Yeah.
It really fucked with my head because you hear about this, like brotherhood and all the sisterhood and family and all this stuff. And it fucked with me. And
you felt like they were leaving you there?
I felt like I was leaving.
It's like you're a ghost.
It took me a long time to realize that their body was responding in their own way.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
not to mention the fact that you ride this roof down and nothing but fire comes out of that hole.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
huge.
and you have to think about the characteristics of what happens inside of fire. Big arch truss like that, obviously all the heat and everything goes to the top. So sometimes you'll have a roof collapse, or someone will go through the roof, and you actually wind up falling through that fire into an area where there isn't fire, which sounds like it happened to you. There was another fire when I was young on the job. I had 3 years on, maybe. It was a fire in 11s, and same thing. A huge section of the roof collapsed.
Oh yeah.
And it basically pushed the fire out from the sides. So they fell into this attic. It was an attic fire on this apartment building. But the actual roof collapse blew the fire out enough where they weren't enveloped in fire. It looked like there was fire coming out from all around them.
Yeah. If you look at the pictures and the aftermath, the roof that I went with there was parts of it. The path I went out was unburnt.
Yeah.
The only path out was unburnt.
Wow, man.
Which is just a
Jesus.
trip.
Yeah.
See, in the video too, your AO's saying like his first reaction is like, oh shit, the rookie's dead.
Yeah.
And I know his dad, and he's processing everything. And it's not like, I'm going to get him right now. It's like, this is done.
Well, when I talked to the AO afterwards, he witnessed the inside member hanging on. So as I fell in simultaneously, the inside member had just
grabbed onto the
grabbed on. And mind you, he's not on air. So if he fell in, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
So he's hanging on. So he runs over, pulls him up. The Tilla member had his eyes on me. He saw me go in. So he yells to the AO, hey, SP's gone, SP's gone, SP's gone. AO looks back. What do you mean? So the three of them get up. They're collecting themselves. The two guys leave. And the AO is like, just trying to process everything.
Yeah.
And he starts giving out the mayday. First mayday gets stepped on. Gives it out a second one. At the same time, he's like, dude, I'm going to have to call his dad. And like, that's it.
Hey, that's another thing that happens a lot, right? Like the first mayday gets stepped on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all the time. Because it's crazy.
And it's the craziest situation. And it's like, oh shit, no, come on. Yeah.
I wanted to we have this photo here of the building in the aftermath. Where on here were you?
Damn.
Yeah. So if you can see this truss right here, this guy.
Gotcha.
That was the path I fell in right here. And this is the path that I got out right there.
So you guys were on initially the aerial was thrown to that building next door.
The aerial was
basically.
thrown here in the exposure. We
Gotcha.
walked down this path, and then we hopped over here, and we were right on this. I think it was the second or third truss right here, and this was 24 feet in, and then boom.
Man, it's crazy.
So you don't wind up really like walking out or crawling out that far to escape. Like you wound up escaping pretty near to where
it was.
Landed.
From the time I had fallen in to the time I got out was 58 seconds. So it was quick.
Man,
oh, shit.
It was
no
quick.
shit.
And all that flashes.
But to me, it felt like an eternity.
Sure, yeah.
but 58 seconds. Like that's how quick it happened.
I want to talk about now you're out, right?
Mhm.
You're out. Your head pops up. Your guys, now you're having these thoughts of, holy shit, these guys are leaving me.
Yeah.
Do you scream out to them at that point, or does somebody see you pop up and come over and start?
So as soon as I popped over, I was trying to get my leg over. I was trying to get my body over because I was afraid I was going to fall back in.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I did that, I just felt something grab me, and it was my AO. My AO grabs me, and of course, because I'm hot, he had got like 2nd-degree burns on his hands, but he just literally threw me down on the ground and dragged me about 5 feet while the other guys are walking towards me.
Yeah.
And he gets me there, and they're like, dude, we can't grab you anymore. We can't drag you. Like we have to go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right. So we get to the aerial, and right when we get there, take the bottle off, and 21s was there to assist with me getting down. So I get on the aerial ladder, and I was like, oh God, I hope I don't fall now, because I'm like, I'm exhausted. So I get my butt on it, and I just kind of slide down. And again, I'm just holding my hand because I felt like it was crushed.
Yeah.
I'm holding it. I get down the pedestal, and they start taking all the gear off, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as they're doing that, I felt immediate relief.
Yeah.
But they get to the glove, and they start pulling it, and I'm looking at it, and I can just see the skin just go with it.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm trying to because the pain was unbearable, I'm trying to almost make myself pass out by looking at it. Like, dude, this is super gross. Like, you need to pass out. But it didn't happen. So I'm just watching it, and then someone's like, hey, stop, cut it.
Yeah.
So they cut it.
Thank God, huh?
And it was they pulled that skin back, and it was just swollen. It was pink. It was just loaded up in a rescue. And then on the way to the hospital.
Did you go to County USA?
County, yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about, we got 10, 15 minutes left here. I want to talk about recovery. Obviously, they're physical injuries, right? Thank God they weren't more serious. 10% body surface area. Obviously, the hand is a critical burn. Talk to me not only about the recovery from the burns. I'm going to assume you went to a burn center.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume there were grafts done. Obviously, they couldn't save the pinky. We'll talk about the mentality with that, but I also want to talk about the mental aspect. So kind of walk me through the medical side of it. You were seen in the ER there at County. Where were you transferred to? But then let's touch on kind of the mental aspect of it.
So I was off for about a year. These skin grafts, they take the typical one from the thigh.
Yeah.
I did a scalp one too. They take a really thin piece of layer of your scalp, put it on. That's like a new thing they do.
Oh, really?
Downside is that you got to shave your hand. I got to shave my hand a little bit. You got
hands.
Hair follicles, but they did a fat graft. They take some fat from my stomach, put in your skin, because I had nothing. I had nothing left. So for that whole year, it was just therapy, doctor's appointment, going to Grossman, more therapy, bandage changes. My wife actually became almost like my nurse. Like, she did all my bandage changes, everything. The reason why I love her, because she stepped up, never grossed out, almost a little curious about it too. Like, hey, let's try this. And so that first year, I was so wrapped up in the physical recovery that I was not even acknowledging the incident. I was almost just in limbo, just numb. Didn't talk about it. Drinking, and then again, because of all these surgeries, I'm getting pain prescription meds.
Sure, yeah.
Easy, right? Yeah. So I'm dealing with that. And then it was the probation clock was coming up. They're like, hey, we need to figure this out. And I was like, I can't, my pinky's stuck, blah, blah, blah. And, I was talking to Grossman. He's like, hey, we can save it. You can save it. You'll never be able to bend it and able to move it, but you won't be a firefighter anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's a no brainer. Yeah. So went to Grossman, they chopped it. I got these 4-finger turnout gloves, and went back to 35s, and again, I have a goal just to complete probation.
Sure. Yeah.
I was going to say, you still got to finish your year.
So I'm not focusing on the mental health. I'm not I'm just pushing myself. my job's on the line. So let's complete probation. As soon as I completed probation, I broke down. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Every type of call I go on, I'm not myself. I'm freaking out. Like, and there's all the guys at 35s knew what they were getting. They were getting a basket case, you know.
And at this point, you hadn't had any therapy. You hadn't talked to anybody about it.
You know, of course, the city, like, you know, they want you to see a therapist, but I wasn't ready. I was not ready. So I was seeing a therapist, you know, a private therapist from time to time, but I was still dealing with it in a non-healthy way. And so the idea came, and they're like, hey, why don't you go to Metro? Why don't you do Metro for a little bit?
Yeah.
Get out of the field. You know, that will help. Okay, fine. So I went to Metro and I passed the class, and then more struggles came. Every time there was a structure call, every time there was a mayday,
oh man,
that tones, that sound, I would get triggered and I would get flashbacks. And next thing you know, someone called 911. I'm like, I can't help you. Like, I'm fucked up in the head right now. So again, one day at Metro, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm done. Like, I am exhausted.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, you know, I'm on my way to work again to Metro, and I was done. Like, I had reached my limit.
Yeah.
And
you're thinking of leaving the department as a whole?
No, I'm thinking of suicide. I'm thinking of suicide. Wow. It was like it got like started to get deep.
Oh wow.
So what ended up happening was I did not want to report into work one day. And I was just miserable, and we were getting ready to take like the final, whatever. And I just couldn't bear it. So I was driving in, 5:30. I was already had a restless night, couldn't sleep. So driving in on the 10 freeway, and it is going maybe like 50. I wasn't going too fast. I just cranked my steering wheel all the way left and hit that center divider.
Oh wow!
No way.
Yeah, I hit it, and it wasn't to kill myself. It was just to make. Because at the time I was having a full blown trigger. It was just to make the trigger stop.
Yeah.
Because again, wasn't handling it the right way. As soon as that happened, word got out. Next thing you know, before I know it, I'm on a flight to Maryland to go to rehab at the IFF Center.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was there for a little over a month. Yeah.
Just from the pain meds and everything that you're doing?
Just everything. Yeah. Not dealing with it, not talking about the trauma.
Yeah. So this was an IAFF?
Yeah, Center of Excellence in Maryland. Like 4 firefighters. Like when I met there, I was like, oh, I'm actually like, we're all kind of jacked up, you know?
Yeah.
You just meet everyone there was firefighters, and they were all dealing with their own.
That's probably like the best way you could have gone.
Oh, it was as soon as I was there, I felt at home.
Yeah.
I felt at home because everyone there was dealing with something. And a lot of it was similar to mine, depression and anxiety and all that stuff. And as soon as I got back, they're like, hey, you want to go back to Metro? I was like, no.
Yeah.
You want to go back to field? No. I need to take care of myself and my family.
Sure. Yeah.
So I got into the CERT unit.
Okay.
And I've been there for coming up on 2 years now. And like, life's good now. Life's good.
And the CERT is a community response team.
Yeah.
Civilians.
Yeah. So we go out. We teach these, like what to do during disasters, extinguisher safety. But I get to go home every day.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's my big ticket right there. It's like no matter if I'm having a trigger, even like driving around, if I see a fire, smoke, I get a little triggered. But I get to go home today. I get to go home. I get to see my kids. Now I got 3 kids, another one on the way. It's like, that's my ticket home right there.
Yeah. You mentioned it. You kind of mentioned it earlier, and I just want to take a second and look at, just so that we have a full understanding of what you went through here. This is your breather, right? Depth civilian. This is your turnout code here.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy, man.
Damn.
Thank God for our safety equipment. It's a testament to making sure that you keep your stuff, clean, repaired when there's an issue with it. Drilling on Mayday procedures. Drilling on, hey, what the hell do you do if you do fall through the roof? What do you turn on? What do you, all that stuff. When you're going through training like that, sometimes it can feel kind of redundant, especially if you've done it. You've been on around the block once or twice. But just like you said, a lot of times when you're in that position and panic takes over, I mean, it's hard to describe to people what panic feels like. When you're caught in a situation like that and your heart's racing, your brain's going a million miles a minute, it's hard to slow things down and think, okay, what am I doing right now? So it's that muscle memory kicking in that really different situations could really save your life.
Yeah.
You go and do you still go and talk to the drill tower classes?
Yeah. From time to time. Yeah. I've taught at Orange County, done a couple other, LA County, things like that. I've done a couple other departments. So yeah, still doing it. Again, it's like a little mini therapy session for me to like get it out.
Are you still going and talking to a therapist and dealing with that? It's a regular thing in your life.
Still doing
now.
that. And that's the thing, is that there's so many new things for mental health out there. Like currently doing EMDR, like I'm doing EMDR once a week. I've done ketamine infusions where you you go to a hospital and things like that. It completely changes how your brain receptors and work, and it kind of resets your whole system. Another thing I did was called a ganglion block. You get a shot in your neck, again, blocks it basically resets your fight or flight.
Oh wow!
Man. So you come out there. I came out of the hospital. I was like, I feel good. I feel super relaxed.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, ganglion block. I'll show you some videos after about it. But felt super relaxed, and it rebuilds your whole nervous system, like your fight or flight. So again, after the ganglion block, pull up to an auto fire or something like that. I was just like, oh, like just not
fire,
bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed a lot of things changing because of these new things that are coming out, and I'm always trying to find the new best thing.
Sure.
And the biggest thing I found, like, all those medical things are cool, but the biggest thing I found out was just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's good advice, man, for anybody. You don't have to have a significant incident like this happen. Things mentally can build up in your system on this job, working at a busy spot where you're seeing people just not be kind to each other, people, shootings, stabbings. Obviously we see the worst of humanity at times, and that stuff can build up in your system, and it's important to recognize that as a young firefighter, and seek out help for things like that, through therapy or through, like you said, all the different ways that we look after mental health that we didn't used to in the past.
Yes.
So I think that's a good lesson to learn for you younger guys and gals out there that are looking to get in this career. It can weigh on you. Suicide is super prevalent in our career. Nate, we're running out of time here. I want to thank you, bottom of my heart, man, for coming on and talking about this. I know it's difficult to talk about these things. I'm glad you're still here, dude. I'm glad that,
me too.
I'm glad that your training and everything helped you. I'm glad that you were with a good crew that knew what to do and how to get you out of there. And
that you're so open to talk about it all, man. Because it was like, there's so many levels to it, like the initial incident, the shock of it, everything you went through, what you went through in the recovery, like all that stuff is hard to open up about.
I'm just thankful that the drill tower was like, they really pushed you, like, Captain Ruiz, like the drill master, all the cadre, peer groupers, like it was like the best time.
Yeah.
But also, like, you're working, and like I took everything they said very seriously. So when I say it, like, the drill tower saved my life, like, absolutely, because that was my lowest level of training. It wasn't. Yeah, twos was kind of shaping it, but it was the foundation of the drill tower that Mayday procedures, grab lives, like all that stuff that kind of really helped build that foundation. So
cool, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything that you want to promote or that you want to give out any?
I don't want to promote anything, but I would like to show you. Can you guys go to that picture of the
building?
Yeah, I want to show you guys something. That's pretty. Right, go back one. One more. Right here. All right. So, can you pause it?
Yeah.
Can you pause it at the beginning? I want to show you guys. This is kind of a trip. Right there. All right. So it took me a long time. I would watch this video over and over and over again, trying to, like, what I do, kind of done this, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually broadened my horizon, looked at the big picture. But so this building right here, this one in front of it, this guy took this video, right?
Yeah.
And if you look down here a little bit lower, NE, that's my initials, right? Nathan Espinosa.
Yeah.
Hold on. AD, that's my wife's initials, Alexa Del Cruz.
What?
ZE, that's my son's initials, Zeke Espinosa.
Oh my God.
And right here, I got a little tattoo that says Kids Rising Hell, because to me, that's like the images of my kids and the images of my wife got me out of that hell. And the fact that this random graffiti is on this, and the fact that I was there that day, and everything that fell into place, the only way out,
bro,
it was a trip. When I saw that, I was just like, there's no way.
Crazy, man.
There's no way
that's crazy.
There's not some higher power like moving these chess pieces. Like,
it wasn't your time, man.
No.
It was not your time.
No.
I mean, everything points to that.
Yeah. So I saw that a couple years back, and I was like, I like to end my story with that.
Man, that's amazing.
Better than giving your IG out.
Exactly.
Where can they follow you, Danny?
You guys can follow me at DannyGonzo34 on Instagram.
You can follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor, like Benign Humor on Instagram and Twitter. Follow our show at PRC Pod on Instagram, at PRC Podcast on TikTok. Email us, contactprcpod@gmail.com. Thank you to everyone listening and to Eddie Cash.
Yeah, as always, you guys, if please like the episode, share it, comment. All that stuff helps us. We're trying to build, obviously, some momentum back up. We've been off for 6 months or so. So like, comment, all that stuff really helps us grow the podcast. Thank you again to our guest, Nate, for coming on and talking about this. We'll see you guys next week.